You paid for the browser, you spun up a profile, you loaded a proxy into it, and then you went straight to logging in without ever actually checking what a website would see when that profile knocks on the door. That missing step is the one that quietly costs people accounts, because the sales page and a real detector are describing two very different things. Today I want to walk through how to test your Antidetect browser yourself, defensively and in plain terms, using the public checker sites so you read your own setup the way a site reads it before it ever matters. Quick note on framing before I start. I run real proxy and cloud phone farms, and I test these browsers hands on the way multi-accounters actually use them. And testing the profile before trusting it is the least glamorous habit and the one that saves the most grief. I am keeping this practical and defensive throughout. How to verify your own setup, not a recipe against any particular platform. And there are no undetectable promises anywhere here. A clean test result removes contradictions from your setup. It does not make anything invisible, unbannable, or risk-free. Passing the checks is a floor, not a finish line. So why test at all when the tool already told you it spoofed everything? Because what a settings panel promises and what a detector actually reads are often two different pictures, and the only way to know which one you have is to look through the detector's eyes. A profile can show a wall of green toggles inside the app and still hand a website a fingerprint that contradicts itself. Testing is nothing more than reading your setup the way a site would, on the public tools built to expose exactly the things that get accounts linked. Before you open a single checker, understand that they answer two different questions that people constantly blur together. One is how unique or identifiable this fingerprint is, how far it stands out from the crowd. The other, and the more important one, is whether the whole thing holds together as a single believable machine. A profile can be reasonably common and still be caught because it told two contradictory stories about itself. Keep those two questions separate in your head, because a tool can pass one and fail the other, and the second one is where accounts actually die. Take uniqueness first, because it is the one people fixate on. A checker will tell you your fingerprint is unique among some number of browsers it has seen, and the instinct is to chase a lower number, to try to look like nobody. But you cannot be one in a million and also blend into the crowd. Those are opposite goals, and the profile scrubbed so bare that it is unique for having nothing is its own loud anomaly. The real target is not invisibility, it is being common and unremarkable. A profile that looks like a boring ordinary machine nobody would glance at twice. Now the main fingerprint checkers themselves. Browser Leaks is the plain workbench. It lays out each surface on its own page. The canvas, the WebGL renderer, the audio signal, the installed fonts, the client hints, so you can read exactly what each one hands over. Creep.js is the more revealing one because it is built to catch lies. It actively looks for the places where your spoof contradicts itself and works out a trust score from how coherent the whole picture is. Read Creep.js the way a detector would, as its scratchpad, because that is essentially what it is. That trust angle is the part worth slowing down on, because Creep.js exposes the exact failure that sinks a lot of tools. It flags when your spoofed canvas disagrees with the operating system you claim to be, when a value shifts between two reads because the spoof re-randomizes on every call, when the browser lies in a way that is itself detectable. A tool that changes 100 values but leaves them disagreeing scores worse than a simpler one that changes less and keeps the story straight. The number of knobs never mattered. The coherence between them is the whole game. Then there are the verdict style checkers, PixelScan and IP and the ones like them, which roll all of this into a single read on whether you look consistent and whether you look like a real browser at all. They check whether the IP, the time zone, and the fingerprint agree with each other and hand you one summary. Those are genuinely useful as a fast coherence read. A quick is anything obviously broken here. But do not treat one green light as proof of anything, because a single summary can pass while a subtler contradiction underneath it does not. So use them as a first pass, not the last word. And here's the half of the test almost everyone forgets: the network. A fingerprint checker reads the device, but your identity is the device and the network together, and the network is where most setups actually fall apart. You also have to test for a webtech leak, a DNS leak, and whether the IP's time zone and geolocation line up with the time zone and language the browser is claiming. A flawless fingerprint sitting on top of a leaking or mismatched network is a contradiction a site reads in an instant. WebTech deserves its own moment because it is the classic silent killer. WebTech is a browser feature that can, if it is not handled, reveal your real local and public IP straight past the proxy you carefully set up. So the single most important thing to confirm on the checker is that the only IP showing anywhere is the proxy's, and your real one never appears. If your true IP leaks through VPNs, the entire profile is undone before the fingerprint even gets a vote, because you have just told the site exactly who and where you really are. DNS and geolocation are the quieter coherence checks in the same family. Your DNS queries should exit near the proxy's region, not through your real provider back home, because a proxy in one country resolving its names through your home internet provider is a leak that quietly hands your real location to anyone watching. The browser's time zone and language should match the country the IP exits from as well. A profile that claims one country while its IP sits in another, with a time zone belonging to neither, is precisely the kind of disagreement detectors are tuned to notice. These are easy to miss because nothing looks broken in the app, and easy to catch the moment you actually read them on a checker. So how do you run the test properly? Because the methodology matters as much as the tools. Open the profile through the real proxy you actually intend to use, not on your naked home connection, because testing a profile without its proxy measures almost nothing useful. Then load the checkers inside that profile and read each surface deliberately. The whole point is to reproduce the exact conditions a real account will run under, so that what you read is what a site will see, not some cleaner rehearsal that falls apart the moment you go live. The habit that separates a real test from a glance is to reload and reread. Load a checker, then reload it several times, then close the profile and reopen it and load it again, and confirm the values hold still across all of that. A canvas result that shifts on every single read, because the tool adds fresh noise each call, is itself a flag, since a real machine draws the same canvas the same way every time. Stability across reloads matters just as much as the values themselves, and you only ever see it by looking more than once. While you are at it, run the isolation test, because a tool can pass on one profile and still leak between two. Open two separate profiles, load a different checker session in each, and confirm they hand over two genuinely different fingerprints, and that nothing about one is visible from the other. No shared identifier quietly bleeding across. This is the practical version of the thing that links more accounts than any fingerprint miss, and it takes 5 minutes to confirm before you ever put two real accounts anywhere near the same tool. There is one more sanity check that people skip because it feels backward. Compare your profile against a plain ordinary machine. The simplest way to do it is to open a checker on a normal everyday browser first. See what a real unremarkable machine actually hands over, and then hold your spoof profile up against that baseline. Your profile should look like something boring and common, not like something suspiciously scrubbed. An empty plugin list, a fonts list with almost nothing in it, a canvas that all but announces it was spoofed. These are anomalies precisely because no real machine is ever that clean. You are not aiming for a perfect blank slate. You are aiming to look like a normal, unremarkable computer, and blank is the opposite of that. Which brings me to the trap the checkers themselves can lure you into, chasing a perfect score. It is tempting to optimize for a green badge that says fully unique or fully protected, and treat that as the win. But a detector on a real platform does not score your badge. It scores whether your story holds together over time, and how you actually behave once you are inside. A spotless checker result sitting under an incoherent setup, or a warm account driven by careless behavior, still gets linked. The badge is a tool for finding contradictions, not a trophy to farm. And be clear-eyed about what these checkers simply cannot see, because it reframes the whole exercise. They measure the device and the network at one single instant, and that is all. They know nothing about how aged and warmed your account is, nothing about your behavior, nothing about the pattern of what you do once you are logged in over days and weeks. Passing every checker on the list is necessary. It is genuinely worth doing. But it is not sufficient, because the parts they cannot measure are the parts that were always going to be your responsibility. So keep a short, repeatable checklist and actually run it before you trust the tool with anything real. Open the profile through the real proxy, confirm the fingerprint is coherent on creep.js with no live flags and no values shifting between reads. Confirm there is no wordplay or DNS leak and your true IP never appears. Confirm the IP time zone and locale match where it exits. Confirm two profiles come out isolated and distinct. Confirm the whole thing looks boring and ordinary rather than scrubbed to nothing. That sequence, run honestly, tells you far more than any star rating ever will. So testing your Antidetect browser is nothing more than reading your own setup the way a website reads it, before that reading ever costs you an account. And the tools to do it are free and public and take half an hour to run. Which browsers actually pass this hands-on, holding a coherent story across every surface with no leaks underneath? And which ones hand you a green badge stretched over a profile that contradicts itself, is written up in full, with no undetectable promises anywhere in the tested reviews and the picks I actually trust at antidetectreview.org. If this gave you a checklist you did not have before, subscribe for more honest, tested Antidetect browser reviews, and I will see you in the next one.